Now, if you could hide from the wind out here, it might not be known as the plains. It might be something more like the mountain valleys. Sit on the wrong side and you get the updrafts. Sit on the leeward side and you get the downdrafts. And in such a way that happens that you create a lot of turbulent air. And the airs are fairly turbulent today. The clouds out are becoming increasingly sparse because of the blast of wind which separated the front which just passed and that which follows. I'm back out here talking again on this radio, broadcasting to maybe 5 miles in diameter at the most. Those on the other side of this hill probably can't hear me. So there's a very narrow band which is going out, facing away from the local police station, picking up a slight bit of the interstate just before it enters into the mountain pass. And I stare out at a field which is being watered and kept that beautiful Kelly green. And I was reminiscing with myself about an individual who I served with in the military. And this individual has many aspects like myself, which is sort of why we came along. And probably be the closest thing to a friend I had while I served. Now that does diminish some other figures. However, those ones seem to be a little bit off kilter with me and played a bit of a secondary role. And I'll talk about some of them, I suppose, in the future. But this gentleman was my senior, not my superior. We held the same rank about the time I got out, but ahead of me in that he had arrived at the command before I had, and had established himself as one of them with potential. Now, I was told that I had a decent amount of potential. Not like my forebears, though. If I may say a word about the greatest general to first set foot on these plains, when he was in the academies, he accrued some record-breaking number of demerits, or write-ups, or what might you call them these days. Pink slips, I don't know, whatever the current phraseology is. Documentations of his misbehavior. And he may still hold a record for that. And the first being, and probably most prominent, especially if you could imagine it, a day and age such as this, that he refused to cut his hair. Imagine the man who attempts such a feat in the modern United States Armed Forces, at an academy, or an outpost, or a feeder program. What sort of individual might be able to get away with that? Well, lots of gentlemen attempt to push the boundaries, but none of them really go full great general. And there's a specific reason for that. And I must admit, I was not one myself to get a number of petty write-ups that may diminish my chance of fulfilling my potential. So I kept it fairly straight and narrow. Until that is, I had said just about enough of this. So I got that tag once as well. And I witnessed many who lived up to their potential in certain ways, though that bar is always moving and moving further and further up. Now, I had the opportunity to showcase some potential in a simulator of a flight which was meant to test my dexterity, anticipation, my flight skills, using my hands and my feet and my brain, and my ability to imagine the future geographic state of control surfaces and wind inputs and barometric pressures. And the number of variables goes on from there, but needless to say, I received marks which should be documented, perhaps in the deep recesses, but it is certainly imprinted on my mind, and I think about it from time to time. And the words were essentially A++ potential. Flying scales. So I took that and ran with it, because who would not? One of the first prominent times when I felt like I had a skill that I could use to make my way through and see something beautiful on the other end. With this skill and this potential, I could navigate the airways, and I could navigate the political and nepotistic minefield of climbing the ranks of the military. Now, was that something that I had intended for myself? It surely was not. Never from the beginning. And perhaps that was seen by some of my superiors, inferiors, and those alongside me, that I, much like I view myself today as a tourist in this land, which I've been increasingly referring to as Paisia for some reason, that I was a tourist in the military. And I believe most are. Though sure, I contributed, and I attempted to raise the bar of my potential into different heights, into other realms. And of course, like many other things, I failed, and I did not live up to that potential. That might be a matter of opinion. But one individual who certainly was, and if he had the energy to continue on, I think he could have made 3 or 4 ranks above me by the time he's all said and done. Though he did have that bit in him, which is perhaps why we got on. That said, if we aren't bending the rules and we aren't pushing the envelope as pilots, then what the hell are we doing out here? And that's an understanding that you come to after a number of missions, a number of months overseas, a number of training flights that do go well or don't, a number of times when you're up in the air and I'm at the controls and my pal is in the right seat, commanding the aircraft, but I'm flying it. And I am standing right now, in the present day, along a fence line with a post that says posted No trespassing, keep out. And I'm walking right up alongside this post. As I talk to you, here I'll tap it. And I was flying with my buddy. I'll give you his name. It was Michael. It's a symbolic name. It's an angel's name, I believe. Now, this guy was the angel of wanting to push the envelope in the air, but not being able to. So decided to push the envelope with women. And I walk alongside this fence. We were pushing the envelope. Flying right alongside airspace as close as we could possibly get without some satellite or some sort of ground radar signal being able to say, United States government, you have some of your property in hostile airspace. Now, this airspace was hostile, and at the time, we did not have what is known as air superiority. You might have heard some news about having 100% control over the skies of a certain place. That's just another way to say we have air superiority, which means you fly on one of our aircraft in there, even though it might be right over the top of your house where you were born, and you speak in a language of fire instead of water. Well, it doesn't matter if you attack us, because that's an act of war. But we can be there. Now, this one, we hadn't quite established that, because there was seedier plans in place to change the nature of the geopolitical facts of this particular land, which has changed since. But still, I flew right up alongside that line. And when I say right up alongside it, I mean if you could see it in space, looking out the right window, you would see the wingtip just so ever gently caressing that imaginary line in the air. So much so that it tickled it. And that line liked what it felt. And that is the sole reason why that regime has fallen. It's because I tickled it with my wing. Everything after was just the follow-on inevitability. Now, the commander of the aircraft, Michael, was watching me do this. And boy, was he shifting in his seat just a little bit every time I'd start the bank on that turn. Plummeting straight towards that line, saying, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to hold it. And now, perfect 30-degree angle of bank turn, leveled out, kissed the line, whispered it a sweet nothing in its ear, said, you foreign land are seeming to get hot and bothered. And Michael didn't get too nervous after the first, second, and third passes. But the fourth, I disarmed him a little bit, and I kept it going straight, even longer. And then put in a 45-degree angle of bank turn. And said, you have the controls. And watched him fumble to pick them up, not knowing why. And I laughed. And I said, unless you don't want them. Now, this is completely not a proper thing to do, and it's completely at the wrong time to do such a thing. And if this ended up in, say, a report or something, you could squash some young man's career even out of this if you were so desperate, though it would seem tenuous. So this little act actually disarmed Michael a bit, because let's just say that he had a cadre already of those who were more senior than me, and some of them didn't really take too much of a liking to me. Now, this happens to me every now and again. Sometimes I lay a joke on from a quiet corner that's a little bit too on the nose, and this puts people off a bit occasionally, but I have been known as a type that I am. First to make trial of his truth and assured utterances was the nymph Illyrio, whom the river god Cephasus embraced in his winding stream and ravished while imprisoned in his waters. But when the time came, that beauteous nymph brought forth a child, whom a nymph might love, even as a child, and named him Narcissus. Lots of people get this title these days. Lots of people deserve it. Some don't. But I will say, I do find it within my abilities to very easily and with great effect, whether good or bad, I find the ability to be able to hold a mirror up to someone and show them exactly what they are and what they are doing. And lots of the times, people see that reflection and they say, I do not like what I see. And I say, I apologize. It's only an exact image. Now, Michael had a bit of this in him as well, as I do, clearly, as did the greatest general to first set foot on these plains, as does every e-girl, every streamer, every actor, every celebrity, damn near every person on this green orb has a bit of this. Unable to identify themselves, yet able to fall in love with an image nonetheless. Now, Michael trusted me a little bit more after that, and he let me get away with a lot while we were overseas after that, and we were flying on the same crew together. About a month going on, and we meet some foreign girls. And these girls take us into their beds and invite us back. Now, the journey to see these girls was on our days off. And for me, it was also on our days on. Because there's a girl you meet sometimes out on an island in the middle of a wide, blue, deep sea. And she takes you out and shows you the stars. And you get intimate with each other in deep ways. And this is the kind of thing that'll keep a man going when he's a bit conflicted about his nature. And the good angel Michael said, it's on me, being the most senior, to watch over this crew. And he allowed me the keys to the van to drive in the middle of the night and return early in the morning, being waved in by a foreign security, and nobody was any the wiser. The young man could have lost everything if I'd have made a bit of a scene out in town, or if I'd have been spotted by maybe someone else coming in. And I did this for a number of weeks. Needless to say, I was a bit tired by the time I was called back from this location to transfer over to another. And Michael never said anything about what I was up to. And I never said anything to anybody about what he allowed me to do. Now that's a good friend. Now in larger groups, he had to put up a bit of an act that I wasn't really that great of a guy. Maybe I had some misbehaviors with others in the squadron, and this put me at odds with some of the gentlemen. This did happen from time to time. But still, Michael was good about it. And I doubt he ever said too much of a bad word to me. About me? Who knows? You never know. It doesn't really matter. But just thought I'd share that story with you, because that was one of the finest things that I ever accomplished while I was in the military. And it wasn't flying up alongside that line, kissing it. It wasn't that at all. It was crossing that line. And that's what people who join the military think they might have the opportunity to do. But ain't nobody setting records like the greatest general to first set foot on these plains. And my forebear. Now I'm out of the military and I'm trying to cross some other lines, but all I see around me are ones people don't care about, or ones that people can't even see, yet they're boxed in by them nonetheless. Now I'm on airwaves here and I'm just speaking, and that's nothing. But if I were to play some music, and whoever controls those waves in the air, which I would say is only the one who is music himself. I'm talking about the sun. Maybe he's been known as Apollo in the past. That's the only one I care about that catches these waves. And if some government tries to come and say, you can't display that wave over this band, then I'd say, all right, then when I do it, come find me. Because this ain't no record. You might think it is, but you're mistaken. So with that, I'll play a song out, and then I'll head back and go do my work this evening. I said I was going to talk about this phrase to end it, although I did give you a bit of Ovid. So I'll give you a bit of Virgil to end it, as I like to. And I'll talk about this phrase more next time, I promise. But by her gate, all the true goddess was revealed. Et vera incessu patuit Dea.